coming across making the connection between the jade and the jade helm, and the jade or Jade 2 being an AI software system. Okay, it's basically the Jade 2 system is an AI quantum computing technology that has the ability to use vast amounts of data that's being collected on the human domain, that's us, to generate a human terrain system, which they talk about in that PDF. Okay, in geographic locations, in order to identify, eliminate targets, insurgents, rebels, or whatever labels that can be flagged as targets on a global information grid in a network-centric warfare environment.
Well, it sounds like it's not just a war on the American people. You know, we spoke recently with John W. Whitehead, the founder of the Rutherford Institute, and he has a new book out called Battlefield America, the war on the American people. And this sounds like a war on the people of Earth, because I'm sure we're not the only ones who are going to be using this artificial intelligence, these algorithms and so forth. I'm sure that's what they are, because everything changes over time on the battlefield, virtual or otherwise. So, I mean, is that your sense? Is everybody on Earth in the crosshairs here? I'm thinking maybe they are.
Well, with respect to the Jade 2 exercise, it's kind of being hyped and pumped up out there as an invasion or an occupation of a section of America. At the very least, it's the largest type of RMT ever conducted on American soil, anywhere, ever. So to that aspect of it, I believe the concerns are real. However, I think there is another aspect to this program that's running in the background, this exercise, I should say, that's running in the background that not too many people are aware of, and that is probably by design.
And what are we thinking this thing is that's running in the background?
Well, in short, the software that they've developed, this Jade 2, it's technology that will not be battles directed by generals and military commanders, but by a computer. All right? The Jade 2 system is a network-centric, software-based AI program at the helm. Very interesting.
Yeah. Now, how did you come to that conclusion without giving away everything?
I read it in papers that. Let me go back. This isn't actually my conclusion. I mean, everything that I'm going to be discussing with you here today is in the documents. And before we get into some of the specifics that this system is able to do and will be doing, I just want to say that the information that I had found on the net that we will be discussing has been highly sanitized.
Wow. I
believe. It's been, because there's things that are not there that should be there when you're talking about a technical system like this that weren't available in the papers.
Well, just take us where you want to go.
All right. Well, why don't we start talking about what the Jade 2 system is capable of? And we can go down this, and I hope this isn't too boring, but you can... the Jade...
I'm thinking it won't be.
Okay.
So don't let that be a concern.
All right. This system uses vast sums of information collected on individuals, groups, population-centric regions, and large geographic areas and or countries. It then dumps all that information into a module called an HTA, which is a human terrain analysis tool, which then analyzes the data to develop an HTS, or a human terrain system. Once the human terrain system is established, it determines, and this is going to start to get really hairy, okay? It determines behavioral parameters for norms of individuals, groups, population-centric areas, etc. The establishment of these formulated parameters is known as the human domain, which we've all been hearing about out there in the media and on the blogospheres and everything. It can then identify, extract, or eliminate perceived threats or targets based on deviations from these norms.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. JADE can also examine the human terrain system over time with the use of thousands of remote sensors, both audio and visual, as well as real-time communication monitoring and other types of HTA tools to change or rewrite its program parameters in a particular human domain. This new information or program template, as well as any other previous program scenarios, is then stored in its Prodigy module, which is actually the battle planning suggestion module, and it can be retrieved at any time for any intended purpose. Now, as this is a knowledge-based or data-driven, mixed initiative, or military/civilian application, it's able to generate complex deployment and battle plans in seconds versus hours, days, or weeks. It can create holographic battlefield simulations on the fly. The deployment or battle planning with this system starts with the receipt of a mission statement, which is then run through a CBR, or case-based reasoning module, to produce an ACOA, or an adaptive course of action. The word adaptive is key. What's it adaptive to? It adapts itself to the changing human domain, us. It adapts its plans based on changing terrain of human activity. What are some of the elements that are classified as human activity? Okay, your communications, your financial transactions, your travel patterns, habits, behavioral patterns, emotions. Yes, this system can read and measure human emotion, and social media content. Okay, the one paper goes on to say that activity can change rapidly in a crisis event or a warfare scenario, and it's able to change or rewrite its own COA or course of action on the fly. The system is aware. It has total awareness, even in a rapidly changing environment.
Hold your place there. Let me ask you something. Where's the central input point for this data that results in these solution calculations?
From what I can ascertain, there is no central data input point. What I've been able to glean from all these papers in that is that these huge data dump centers, like the one in Blufftail and many, many other ones, are connected into this global information grid. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, the global information grid would be the central point on the network system.
Takes me a minute to get my mind around these things, but I'm with you. Keep rolling.
Okay. Now, FORMAT, which is the force management module for this system, was developed by the MITRE Corporation, and it's used to support knowledge acquisition. Okay, that's data collection. That's what the NSA is performing on everyone, not just identified threats, but everyone. Why? Because the government now perceives the American people, I believe, as its greatest threat, and it will use a computer-driven military to clamp us down. Patriots will be classified as terrorists, and the true terrorists, the U.S. puppet government we have out there, who receives its directives and agendas from the ruling elite, they'll be deemed patriots to be protected at all costs.
Makes sense.
Okay, the third module in this system is known as PARCA. It's able to handle extremely complex structured queries against large knowledge bases or large databases, data dumps. Have you ever wondered why, or has anybody ever asked the question, why the NSA is telling everyone they're only collecting metadata or meta tags?
I don't even fully understand what those things are. But look, if you'll define them and then ask that question again, it'll be easier for us to track with you.
Okay, meta tags or metadata contain virtually no information or data in and of themselves. Meta tags or metadata only have value if they're indexed to a much larger information source or file in these immense databases. So, this is, in my humble opinion, this is just another example of deception through misdirection. Oh, we're just collecting, your phone numbers you're passing by, and we're not keeping any of your emails or your text messages or anything like that. Well, if you look at how this system is structured, that's the critical data the system needs. It can't work off tags and metadata. I mean, they're virtually empty data until they're indexed to something or something is indexed to them. Does that?
Good Lord. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm with you.
Okay. Jade 2 is, and hold on to your seat for this one, it's a self-reactive, self-adapted, self-modeling program for predictive force deployment. In other words, it can predict conflicts before they occur and react in a preemptive manner. Okay. It only it thinks in the present, but it can predict future events or human activity. And these conflicts are not confined to a warfare scenario either. Excuse me. The predict and preempt capabilities can also be applied to scenarios of social unrest. And that's not just my opinion. That's stated right in the reports and the papers on this software.
Good grief. Okay.
So let's look at some of the other key functionality or capabilities of this system. And right now we're just talking about the Jade system because that's what everybody's concerned about right now, Jade Helm. It can make high-level trade determinations. It makes decisions regarding casualties and targets in line with the overall mission objective. Okay? It is a total command. It has total command and control in an information-intensive society. Now, from a military standpoint, the term command is more or less a legal or a behavioral standard of actions performed or not performed by military officers to which they can later be held accountable. The Jade system displaces that standard from individual commanders and places it on itself. Total command and control of all information over land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace is how they will master the human domain. It says that in the PDF slides. It says that in the software papers. Okay? It can perform machine interpretation of commander's intent. Think about that for a minute. That's kind of, let me try and put this in perspective.
Yeah, listen, don't hold it against me if I'm just being quiet here. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. This is the deepest that we've ever gone on this subject. So you don't have to worry about us bearing with you. Just bear with us, okay? just keep going. I am all attention.
Okay, I want to get back to the machine interpretation of commander's intent. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, all right, I pull up to my house, I pull in the driveway. My intent is to go in the house and sit, watch TV. Now, am I going to enter the house by smashing my truck through an exterior wall, or am I going to enter the house by getting a key off my keychain and unlocking the door? I mean, that, to me, that is a scary aspect. Machine interpretation of commander's intent.
I wonder if that's to eliminate the possibility of any, shall we say, freelancing out there, or overriding some orders or something like that.
I don't know. It could be.
Okay.
It could be, but I don't know. I'm not sure. This, like I said before, the system sits on a global information grid, which is how can I explain this? It's a flexible, scalable, and a dynamic architecture in order to support multilateral civilian and military operations. This global information grid is going to be an important aspect as we go through this. Okay? Oh, here's another subheading in one of the papers, and it was entitled "The Process of Sense-Making in Complex Human Endeavors." Quote, "This approach uses a set of cognitive constructs that translates tacit knowledge to the focal knowing of the objective world." End quote. How are they accomplishing this? They're mapping your mind. That's how they're doing it. And they are creating these maps with all of the information that's being collected on everyone regarding every aspect of their life. Macrocognition. This is the process the system uses to dissect the human behavioral process. It's a cognitive and adaptive learning function, and this. I'm sorry, I'm stepping all over myself here.
It's completely okay. Gives me time to catch up.
Okay. Oh, I'm embarrassed. Okay, the macrocognition component of the system, like I mentioned before, is a process of dissecting the human behavioral process. Okay, its cognitive and adaptive learning capabilities enables it to predict intent. Now, we're not talking on the military side here. We're talking on either the enemy or civilian side, whichever way you want to look at it. So it can predict intent of an adversary or target, as well as predict a range of potential behaviors of those targets. And it does this instantaneously. This doesn't require a bunch of military commanders sitting around a table, going back and forth. Well, how should we handle this? I don't know. I think we should do it this way. The machine's making the system's making the decisions for them. Oh, here's another statement that was made in the paper entitled "The Tuesday Presentation to Justify the Rollout of J2," and it says, quote, "For a joint commander to define an instruction set to a civilian or military joint force mission to transform a failing state to an agreed upon non-failing end state is a problem," end quote. Okay, and this section goes on to say that, rapidly changing dynamics presents a cognitively difficult task for commanders and practitioners. And the system will do that too.
This sounds monstrous, frankly. It doesn't even sound cool. It sounds...
It is. I think it is.
Scary. Nefarious.
It gets worse when
Excellent.
you look at it. No. I mean, when you look at it as it is not the be-all and the end-all, this is just a sub-layer, a layer on top of a much larger system that's already in place. Okay? Jade 2 can reconfigure its own network topography to optimize communication and data transfers. In one of my other reports, I talked about BBN Technologies' use of bandwidth extenders on the cellular and wireless architecture networks. Well, this is what they're referring to. An example of this might look like, you're driving down the road, all of a sudden you lost cell phone service in a particular area or for a particular time, when in actuality, your bandwidth's been reallocated to the system. Because everything, absolutely everything, communications, everything else is tied into that global information grid. All right, another command and control problem that these concept papers, they're not even concept papers because the software is being used now. Okay, Another command and control problem this system is designed to handle is the fact that the enemy has always been able to adapt to a rapidly changing environment to hide itself from exposure. In order to combat this problem, okay, the kill chain had to be compressed from hours to seconds. The system removes the administrative delay in the kill chain. It has no moral compass, no empathy, or regrets.
Wow.
Okay.
No empathy or regrets.
No, it's a computer program. I don't think they bothered to program that in.
It's just like your gun. It doesn't care.
Right.
Okay,
right.
gotcha.
It depends who's putting the directives in it. And it's intended to achieve dominance of cyberspace, cyber power, and cyber strategy. This capability will continue to evolve, even though key technical, social, and information trends begin to stabilize. Okay. It'll capitalize on social engineering for offensive military and civilian operations. In other words, this is a technical approach to the tactics employed in Nazi Germany by the Stasi, the brown shirts, and the SS. This is just a technological version of those social engineering tactics they used then. It has a sophisticated decision support system for crowd control. And with the growing civil unrest, not only here in America, but around the world, this is going to be an integral aspect of J2's deployment on the civilian population.
Okay.
Okay, now, well, let me just say this and then, move on to another section here. The hardware that this system's running on isn't your run-of-the-mill supercomputer, all right?
Your run-of-the-mill supercomputer.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's not a Cray. It's nothing like that. It's going to be running thousands of processors on a single chip. This is, without a doubt, the direction these command and control systems are moving toward. You just can't process the vast amounts of data being collected using conventional linear computing technology. You get to a diminishing point of return at some stage of the game here with these data dumps.
This is very disturbing. Now, can you hold your train of thought while I pop in and out?
Sure.
It seems to me, DJ, that this is why, while people are going, now, why would Obama or whomever is pulling his chain? Why would they fire all these highly competent military officers? Why are they firing these people who said they won't fire on U.S. citizens? Why are they? Because we don't need them anymore. Because somebody who's completely okay with that is going to make use of this computer apparatus to do the dirty work that they want to do, that these people who have been fired would not do.
I think you're exactly right.
Carry on, my dear.
Oh, this you're going to find interesting. It develops virtual models based on repetitive types of crimes that can predict future crimes that have not yet been committed by either individuals or groups in the COA or the civilian operation area, and then execute a course of action, a preemptive course of action. This is Minority Report's pre-crime technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, we can sum up the J2 system this way. I guess it's a self-organizing, vision-capable, expectation-capable, recognition-capable, situationally aware, emotional, intelligent, goal-oriented system. The system thinks, plans, and executes. Remember, emotional behavior, physical behavior, activity behavior outside of the norm identifies targets.
We're going to have to become like Zen / underground warrior priests and priestesses, it sounds like. Talk about steady your mind.
Yeah. Steady your emotions. And above all, no fear. Don't be afraid of this operation from either standpoint, the military standpoint or the system standpoint. When you're in a state of fear or you're in a state of anger, you do not make good decisions. And the system's predicated on that.
And the system is predicated on that. I got to tell you something. I've had some pretty interesting conversations over the years, but I'm about to award this one the proverbial cake. I think this one takes the cake. Even if everything you said was wrong, and I don't think it is, by the way, it's still just so complex, so diabolical, so screwed up in this beautifully engineered way that you really have to kind of step back and admire it. It's like, wow, that is extraordinarily monstrous.
Oh, yes, it is.
But I'll tell you, this makes too much sense. It makes entirely too much sense. And I have to tell you that this is one of those deals where I can't say, oh, I should have seen that coming. I didn't see it coming. The only thing that I felt I had a high confidence about was that, no, we haven't nailed it yet. There have been a lot of smart people come on the program. They are smart. They're very smart. and they've given us their opinions. But none of them grabbed me like this one. And that's nothing against them. I'm just saying, that's right, the women are smarter. You know that thing, that song, the old song, the women are smarter?
No. Nobody's ever sung that to me.
We may have to play that one. Yeah, listen, all I can do is blither and try and be an interesting conversationalist at this point, because I got to tell you, you've just filled my head with so many possibilities that I'm just trying to keep them at bay without forgetting any of them, so I can delve into them in some quiet moments later. And that's not really the best way to conduct a conversation. So I think I'll take the polite path and just say, please just tell us anything else that you want to, because this is amazing.
Well, with respect to GeoInt,
yeah.
Okay. With respect to Jade Helm, the key is don't participate, don't display an emotional response. The sensors and the data collection, social network, they're going to be picking up on that data, and they're counting on it. Okay, and like I said, it appears that the system responses are triggered by negative emotions. Now, with respect to GeoInt, okay, this is a much bigger issue. Okay, you would have to get off the technological grid to the best of your individual ability, and that is much easier said than done. What they've done was, we've been provided with all of this wonderful technology to make our lives more convenient and easier and more interconnected, and what they've turned around and done is they've turned that technology against us. So in order to stop this, which many people may be thinking, well, how do we avoid this? I think the answer is obvious. These huge data repositories, like the one in Bluffdale, Utah, the underground ones they have, the one in Maryland, okay, the threat fusion data collection centers, okay, these data storage facilities need to be unplugged, if you get my drift. Okay, the data storage media needs to be erased or rendered unusable, because they've already collected so much data. It blows the mind. It really does. Data sweepers like the Gwen Towers and these dirt boxes and other data collection hardware needs to be disabled. We got to find some way to disable it, jam it. Because let me put it to you this way, all right? How can I say this? The car won't run if there's no gas in the tank.
Right. You know, what we're talking about here is the R word. We're talking about a real, no kidding rebellion. This is really quite dangerous stuff. I have to tell you, it's exciting.
It's very dangerous.
I mean,
I think the word.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the word you used is diabolical, and that's a very good description. Well, the drones are plugged into the J2 system. Yeah. They directly communicate to the, you know, those little operators you see in wherever it is, Nevada or someplace, or Colorado, where they're operating. Nah. These drones now can be plugged directly into J2.
Nice.
Take its orders from there.
Mm-hmm.
So,